Good afternoon, everyone. Hopefully you can both see and hear us. It's Kevin Reimer with the BC Principals and Vice Principals Association, and I'm with Alison Davies, and welcome to our webinar. Our intent today is to really introduce our mentors and our mentees to the program and talk a little bit about next steps as we move forward. But before we get that far, just a number of housekeeping details. So if you've not been involved in one of our webinars before, you are able to ask questions and you can type them in the question box. Alison and I will be monitoring those questions and likely won't answer them until the end of the webinar. So if you could be patient, that would be much appreciated. Also, all of our attendees have been placed on mute. Please don't take it personally. Just our experience has been that when people are listening from their homes or from their offices, we often pick up a lot of background noise as well. And so that will be the case. If we can't get to all of your questions, certainly we can send out an email to you afterwards saying, providing you the answers. And also we know that particularly for the principals and vice principals, this is still a busy part of their day. Not everybody can be online as we would have hoped. So we are recording the webinar, and I will post a link either tomorrow or later on tonight. So for all of our people in the mentoring program or as mentees, so they can, or if they weren't able to join us, they can go back and view the webinar as well. And we're also, I did put an email out to a number of mentees. We have about 6 of them whom we're not able to make a match with a mentor. So mentors, you're up there. If you know of someone who would be interested and a good fit for our program, we're still going to be taking applications for mentors up until our training session that begins on November 9th. So with all the housekeeping details out of the way, I'm going to turn it over to Alison. Thank you, Alison.
Thank you, Kevin. Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is a great privilege to be part of this pilot project with the BC Principals and Vice Principals Association, and I'm thrilled to have been invited to help to guide this project through this first initial year. And I want to begin by welcoming you, every one of you, mentors and mentees, and thanking you for your commitment to this professional growth and this collegial co-learning, which is really at the heart of the mentorship. Kevin shared some of the places that you are joining us from, and I think it's wonderful that we have the whole range and diversity of the BC province that's going to be part of this pilot project. And we have folks with us from Niska, Peace River South, Haida Gwaii, Vancouver Island North, Okanagan-Skaha, Fraser Cascade, Sea to Sky, New Westminster, North Vancouver. So the great diversity of BC is represented here, and that's really part of the purpose of this project. It's to truly be a provincial outreach where we can create a network for principals and vice principal leadership across the province, and support that leadership through mentorship work. So a little bit about me. My name is Alison Davies, and I have been able to be the coordinator of the New Teacher Mentorship Project, which some of you may have heard about, which has been active in the province for the last 5 years. And in that role, I've been able to journey throughout the whole province and be in many of the locations where you are working and living right now. And I have tremendous respect for the huge diversity, of course, in British Columbia, and what it's really like to be working from the particular places you are. So I hope that will become and shape a great part of the work that we're doing together. I'd like to acknowledge the involvement of the BC Retired Principals and Vice Principal Association, who have also been a big part of this project and are supporting it in terms of supporting the retired principals as the mentors in this project as well. So the purpose of today is to welcome you and to outline the structure and the foundational elements of the program, its aims, its principles, to provide a few frameworks that we might begin to work with, and some of the resources, the web resources and some of the book resources that we'll be using, and of course to respond to some of your questions as we move along throughout the webinar. So I'm just going to move to the next slide. Here we go. So none of us need any convincing about the power of great mentorship. And all of us have had some experience, I know, of how we've benefited both in our work and in our growth as human beings from having a great mentor. I wouldn't be here if there wasn't the primary teacher beside me in my first year of teaching who took me under her wing and convinced me that that I could teach grade ones when I had only ever had my experience in intermediate classrooms. So what has shifted in mentorship, even though it's always been a part of educational work, both formally and informally, is that it's really shifted from a expert beginner kind of a model to one of reciprocal growth, supporting learners across the whole system. And it's rooted in the human relationship and human conversation, and I think that's one of its greatest strengths. We're calling this mentor coaching because it's both about the mentorship, which is bringing forward our expertise and our experience to share with one another, and it's also coaching in that it's facilitating from the strengths and the desired growth of the mentees. So it's both the sharing of experience and the deep skills that come with facilitating and deeply listening to the learning and the desires and the vision of another. And that's how the mentor coaching is coming together in this initiative that we have begun together. So I'm just going to ask Kevin to come back in and speak directly about this particular initiative for the BC principals and vice principals, and a little bit about how it's evolved and come to be.
Sure, thank you, Alison. So over the last few years, in 2013 and 2016, we put out provincial-wide member surveys to all of our members, and one of the things we asked them about was around leadership development programs. And so there are probably half of the districts in the province who provide some mentoring training, particularly for new vice principals within their district. But when we started to dig a little deeper and ask our members about the quality of those programs, it seemed to be a little hit and miss. And districts, I think, we're in an era of limited resources, have had some difficulty, I think, maintaining some of these programs. And also bring my own experience to it as well. When I started as a new vice principal 18 years ago, really felt that I could have learned everything I needed to learn from my principal in terms of leadership and how to run a school. And I think really with the increased complexity, increased scrutiny of the work that we do today, it was important for us as an association to provide something of added value for our members in terms of leadership development. It was clear from our members that mentoring is an important process that they see in terms of their leadership development. And we wanted to complement what was happening in districts or offer something that may not have been happening in districts. And so when I first came into the role, it was one of the interesting questions that I wanted to pose to the board. Would it be possible for us as a provincial association to provide a pilot mentoring program? And so that leads us to today. It's a work that's been going on since last spring in order to prepare for this. And I am hopeful that I'm sure that our pilot program will be very successful. I'm confident I can go back to the board in the springtime and say, this investment of resources and staff involvement certainly paid dividends for our members, and I'm hoping that we can grow and continue. My goal really is I hope that all new vice principals and principals in the province have the opportunity to really benefit from a very solid mentoring program as part of an early intervention approach to leadership development. We really benefit from a very strong relationship between the Retired Principals, Vice Principals Association, our own association. So last year when I started to talk out in the field about the possibility of this happening, what I heard clearly from our newest members was that they wanted to make sure, they wanted to be involved in a mentoring relationship, but had some reservations on the part of a few people about really being involved with people in a mentoring relationship with people who may have career influence over them down the road. And so we felt that there was a really good match with our retired principals and vice principals, as many of them still remain current in the system. They have a great deal still to offer. And I think that there were some benefits in terms of having a mentor who's not currently working in the system to really foster a genuine, authentic mentoring relationship. And so that work that's gone on in the background is really what brings us to today.
So there's a advisory team here at the BC Principals and Vice Principals Association that has come together, and over some meetings together, we've established the common aims and the purposes of the project, and we'd really love to share those with you right now, because I think they really are going to guide the work that we're going to do together and how we're going to grow the program together. So beginning with the aims of the program, the first is to build principals and vice principals confidence and self-efficacy. And this is really the area where we're looking at the responsibilities of the principal's work, especially as you're encountering many of the new responsibilities that you might be taking on. In this area, we're going to look at some of the leadership standards, the goals that you might set for yourself in terms of your growth in your new positions, looking at a framework for judgment and decision making, and particularly considering the skill and artistry and how in the implementation of your new role, and the nuances in how do we go about thinking and applying and responding and doing the work. So that's really the first aim. The second aim is to really maintain and enhance your well-being and the life-work balance. We know that mentorship has an incredible capacity to respond to the whole person, and how you feel and how you're growing in terms of your own being affects so much of the work you're doing. So in this area, we really want to be able to expand perspectives, support the network of principals and vice principals, and just encourage that sense that you're not working alone, that there are many that are there to support and respond to the needs that you might be experiencing as you work throughout this year and throughout these beginning years in your new roles. The third goal and aim is to foster and value continuous learning for mentors and the mentees. So that's really building on your existing strengths and skills, supporting you to identify your areas for growth, and supporting the seeking and responding to your feedback as we move through the mentorship work. So those are the three primary aims that we've identified for the program. And along with that, there's the guiding principles. And these really form the foundation of the way that we'll work together, and the approach towards the mentor and coaching work that we'll be doing. It's to remain open. It's open to all interested principals and vice principals new to their positions or changing positions. This is really key. There's a clear separation from any evaluative process at all, and full confidentiality is to be respected in this mentorship pilot, as it is in all mentorship work. We're working from a premise of assuming, we're coming from a place of competence, that the mentees are resourceful, creative, you're experts in your own life, and as we grow and change and enter into new positions, we need to create spaces to discuss honestly and share vulnerability as it arises. And that these places of tension and vulnerability are often the most potent learning events. So creating and maintaining and protecting these places of honest, open dialogue are really critical in the mentorship work. It's to be responsive to the whole person, and our purpose is to support the strengths, vision, core values, and desired change of the mentee. So the mentorship relationship is designed to invite your curiosity, discovery, and reflection, and it's really to be based on the context of each mentee's work. So it's really about you, your needs, and the areas of growth that you identify. The process is going to be shaped by the context, the geography, and the technology that's available to you where you are. One thing I became deeply aware of in my work with the Nutrition Mentor Project is the importance of place and how place shapes who we are and the work that we're doing. So we want this project to be able to really respect the diversity of challenges that you're facing and just the different kinds of communities that you're working in across BC. And so in that way, each mentorship relationship, you will be able to define and describe the kinds of communications you'd like to use, the way you'd like to be meeting, what times are going to be best for you as well. The mentor-coaching relationship is one that is co-created. It is built on trust, mutual respect between the mentor and the mentee. It's offering ongoing support, challenge, and encouragement. There's a beautiful quotation that I think captures this, and it's that I've been on this journey before, but I've not been on it with you. So there is a mutuality and a reciprocity that is always active in mentoring relationships, and this pilot will be really structured within that as well. It's self-directed, self-determining. This is not a mandated program. It's not based on any kind of remedial response to difficulty. It's fully recognizing that we are all capable colleagues and capable educators, and that we're working from a process of strength and growth. It's to be learner-focused. The mentors will act primarily as growth agents. They're not experts or fixers. The mentors will share their own experience and expertise, but in service of the mentee. And that's really what we mean by the mentor-coach role. The work within the relationship is to foster awareness, greater awareness for the mentee around their particular situation, develop greater range of possibilities, perspectives, and choice, and then strengthen the confidence and self-efficacy in implementing leadership work throughout the year. So it's a reciprocal process that enriches mentor learning, and in doing so, we're building capacities and skills that really strengthen the system across all learners. So in terms of the structure of the program, this is really how we've set out the process that we'd like you to engage with. The partnerships are now confirmed, and there's still some that are in the process of being confirmed. So we hope we'll be able to give you more information about that as we bring some more mentors on board. You'll have the opportunity with one another once you have your first meeting to determine your process that you'd like to be involved with, time and the frequency of your mentoring work. In terms of that, what we really mean is what are the communication ways that are going to work for you? Would you like to meet over Skype, phone, Facebook? What are the means of getting together that are going to be the most effective for you? We'd like to encourage you to commit a minimum of at least 4 hours a month to your conversations. Ideally, we'd encourage weekly contact. We would suggest creating a weekly time that works for you both to contact one another. Sometimes it might be a very quick meeting or a quick connection through email, and other times it might be a much longer and more in-depth conversation that you will engage with. We're going to provide support through the BetterEducate platform, and Kevin will give you a little more guidance and a little walkthrough of how that will work in just a bit. I'm really intending to use the BetterEducate platform as a way to keep in touch with the mentors and the mentees. So as we move throughout the year, we'll be able to chat on the BetterEducate platform. I'll be able to share resources with you, and it'll be a way we can keep in touch and keep communicating as we move throughout the year. We're going to have a mentor learning session on November 9th and 10th, so that's next Thursday and Friday. That'll be for mentors coming to the office here, the Principals and Vice Principals Association, and that'll be for 2 days, and I'll have a little more information about that for the mentors in just a moment as well. In May, we'll have another day for mentors to come individually together, and hopefully we'll be able to connect with some of the mentees as well. That'll be a day for giving feedback and celebrating the growth that's been made over the year in your relationships. And I will also be engaging all of you in providing program feedback. That will probably begin sometime in February, and we'll do, I'll send out a survey to everyone, and your feedback will be incredibly important and informative for us in terms of giving response to how the process has worked for you this year, and then we'll use that to inform the growth of the project with the advisory committee as we're planning for next year as well. So I think those are the primary elements of the structure. I'm going to say a little bit more now about the mentor learning session for the mentors November 9th and 10th to give you some feedback on that. As I said, it'll be here at the office. We'll meet at 9 o'clock on the Thursday and go through till 3:30. We're going to have a dinner together that evening. I think that's
I'm working on it.
Yeah, Kevin's going to make a reservation.
There'll be dinner that night. Yeah.
There'll be dinner, and it'll be a time for us all to just to relax and have a social time together, which I think we're really looking forward to. We'll come back together on the Friday from 9 to, and we'll have an earlier finish at 1:30 in the afternoon. The main purpose of the learning session will really be to give you lots of opportunity to explore the skills, really these facilitative skills of mentorship, and to use authentic scenarios as a way to practice those skills so that you feel you have some good tools to take with you as you're working and establishing your relationship with your mentor. So that's the key, those are the key elements of the learning session. I'm happy to answer any questions about that you might have. I'm going to pass it over to Kevin so he can, we are going to use a book. We're
Yes.
going to, that's right, we've ordered When Mentoring Meets Coaching, and that hopefully will be here for all of the mentors next, for next Thursday and Friday. But that's the text that we'll be using as a foundational text, and then it'll be a support for you throughout the year as well. It's a brand new book. It's out of Ontario, so it has a kind of Canadian focus, which I think is really helpful for us. And it has very much an inquiry approach and lots and lots of scenarios that we can build on, and some great tools for mentors to come back to and to use as a support throughout the year.
Great. So I'm just going to have to switch screens here for a moment. And so as Alison mentioned, one of the things that we're going to do is we're going to be using the BetterEducate platform. So it's likely our mentors don't know about BetterEducate, and so BetterEducate is it's a platform created by one of our principals, Sean Lockhart, who's a principal in the Boundary School District, and being in a more remote area of the province, Sean was really interested in creating some kind of a platform for educators, teachers, principals, and vice principals to share resources online. So Alison will be using BetterEducate to share some of the resources with you. She's done that already. And so if you can see my screen, if you have not done so, or if you don't have an account, there's two pieces to this. So BetterEducate, if you signed up as a teacher and logged in that way, you would have access to the resource sharing site. When you sign up as a BCPVPA member, and that includes our mentors, even though you're retired as well too, so you get access to the front end, which is the resource sharing site, but you also get access to what I'll refer to as the back end of the site, which is for our members only. and I will go ahead and log in so we can show you a little bit more about that. So as you can see, first off, on our BCPVPA YouTube channel, there are a number of videos that I put together, some Camtasia screen captures that shows you how to access all of the offerings that BetterEducate does, so you can learn a little bit more about that. Currently, we have about 1,000 principals and vice principals of teacher in the province who are on BetterEducate. And so this is what my dashboard looks like. So all of those educators that I might be following, resources that have been well viewed, some of the people that I'm following, also some of the other things that I have noticed as some of my favorites are also in here as well too. So this afternoon, Alison posted this resource right here, Guiding Questions for Initial Conversation. So if you were to go to resources or from that dashboard site, you'd be able to download that document. And so for mentors, this is really, here's where it may be found. You can search under Alison's name. It's the organization is BCPVPA. And so when Alison posts resources, it will all be to our BCPVPA site. And we'll create a group, a member group as well too, so she can communicate with you. You'll get email notification when a new resource has been posted to that site. And so that will keep you up to date as best as we can. And so I'm just going to show you walk you through a little bit of the back end that Sean has created just for our members. So while I have much to share on this, what we did ask Sean was to take our growth plan model, the work that we do through our professional learning and development people, and really create this online portfolio growth plan in place, which our mentees will be using. So this is about leadership development, and it makes sense to be using our leadership standards in that as well. So I'll quickly click on My Growth Plan just to very quickly walk you through what this could look like. And so in My Growth Plan, what you'll automatically see is that there are 8 steps that I would go through to complete my growth plan. Some of them I've done, some of them I've not done at this point. It is a work in progress. I can have multiple growth plans on the go. This is my growth plan for 2017. And so after I figured out my purpose and vision, which is an important step, I would go through and I would do some initial self-assessment. So one of the things I do want to point out is that this is based on our BCPVPA leadership standards. So all of our 4 domains and our 75 standards are embedded within BetterEducate. So when I click on standards, values, and vision, it will give me an action statement, offers me some reflective questions. And one piece that I really like about this is that it allows me to upload exemplars. So anything that you can do, in a link, if you've done a video or a link to some research paper or something along those lines, BetterEducate doesn't store that on their server. It's just a vacuum that, as Sean will say, sucks up a lot of information. So if I'm working on collaborative processes, I have some example of resources that I've created or that I've come across to help guide me in that work. It's very easy to add a resource. I can drag and drop or add a link or select one of my resources that are already within BetterEducate. So I've uploaded a number of different resources to BetterEducate. To share, I can just pick one of those things and then I can upload it as part of my growth plan. So as I said, there are some videos online to go through this process. One of the things that is of interest and that you'll want to be able to do is that you can share your growth plan with somebody else on BetterEducate. So under shared growth plans, I have done that work already. And this may be helpful for you if a district is expecting that you have a growth plan as part of your leadership development process, or also to help inform the compensation process for principals and vice principals, as we know that performance review is now a big part of compensation awards for principals and vice principals. So when this loads, it will show that I've shared my growth plan with a couple of other principals around the province. So David DeRosa and Lee Karpenko are 2 people whom I share my growth plan with. And so because I've shared my growth plan with David, David has shared his growth plan with me. So I can take a look at David's growth plan and I can actually make some comments on the processes along the way. So he's gotten some feedback from Dan Watt and from Aaron McKenzie, Aaron is in his district, Dan is in a neighboring district. There's an opportunity here for mentees really for mentors, as mentees are working through the growth plan process, then of course mentors can embed some comments right in there as they go through this process if they want to be able to do that to give some feedback. And so we've only had this out to our members for the better part of a year or so now, and the feedback has been great from our mentors in terms of this use. And so really this leadership platform and growth plan development will be a focus of the work that's going to happen between mentors and mentees. And Alison and I will have more to share with that in our planning session with mentors on the 9th and 10th. So that's a very quick overview of what BetterEducate is. If you don't have an account, you can go to bettereducate.com. Make sure you click on that BCPVPA link, and that will give you the full functionality of the site. Thank you.
So the purpose here is to create some greater alignment with these wonderful resources in the Principals and Vice Principals Association have made available through the standards and the growth plan using the standards. In no way is there any intention that that growth plan drive the mentoring, the focus of the mentoring work, but that it be it provides a base and a framework for the conversation that you might engage with together. So there might just be elements of it, language from the leadership standards that will be helpful for you as the mentee is defining and describing the growth they would like to make throughout the year together. So let's, I want to share with you the mentoring cycle. This is really just a guiding framework for how we're really envisioning the mentoring work together. Building the trusting relationship, of course, is the foundation, and that is really being developed. The trust, the mutual respect is being developed throughout all of the work that you will be doing together and all the conversations you will be doing together. It really is what is foundational and evolving as you enter into your conversations and your work throughout the year. A big part is identifying intentions and the learning focus. This is what really keeps the mentorship intentional. It keeps it forward moving. It keeps it based on the goals, the outcomes, and where is it we're going together, and how can we provide meaningful feedback on those intended goals. So that's an area that we'll explore together, and that'll be part of your conversations, particularly as you're establishing your work together. Building capacity, enabling growth, that's really the facilitation of the mentors being able to help their mentees develop greater awareness around the work, again, growing perspectives around, increasing perspectives, looking at what the intentionality and the accountability is for the goals that they have set, and really asking those impactful questions. How do we respond in such a way that it really is keeping focused on the mentee's agenda and the mentee's learning? And then, of course, always taking time to assess and celebrate the growth, acknowledge that, and the process continues on as you continue to work together. So that's really the framework that we'll be using as we work in the workshop together with the mentors, and that the mentors will be using on both a micro and a macro level as they're engaging in the mentoring work with the mentees throughout the year. And so given that, there is a resource that I have uploaded onto BetterEducate, and I'm going to ask you to connect to that and have a look at it. And before we meet for the mentor workshop next Thursday, really like you, mentors and mentees, to have a look at this guide for initial conversation and give it some thought and have a conversation together and frame your conversation around these central themes of sharing your background, where you're both coming from in your experience and your history of work in education, looking at your work context, where you're working, what are some of the some of the things you value and love about where you're working. What are some of those challenges? How are you feeling moving into your work in leadership? Looking at your professional learning, what you value in professional learning, what fosters your curiosity, and what you expect from one another in the mentor-mentor relationship, and how you might work together in the most effective way, providing meaningful feedback, and then giving some thought together to some of the logistics of your communications, as I said earlier. What's going to work for you in terms of time frame of when to meet, when to talk together, and what is the technology and the means that's going to be the most comfortable for you. So if you could have a look at that resource, probably in a couple of days once you've got your profile set up on BetterEducate, and then coming with that knowledge and that experience of your first conversation, I think that will really help the mentors in our workshop together, because you will have had that groundwork and that foundational conversation together, which I think will make the work much more relevant when we come together for the workshop. Okay, so that's the first tool that I'd like to give to you. So just to summarize a few to-dos. Mentors, just a reminder that we'd like you to join the Retired Principals and Vice Principals Association, and the process for that is on their website. We'd like you to initiate this initial conversation before we get together next Thursday, Friday, and of course make your travel plans for coming to the workshop in Vancouver. Both mentors and mentees, if you could complete your profile on BetterEducate once we've set up your, once we've got your profile set up,
yeah.
You set up your profiles. Explore those growth plan tools if you have any time to do that. There'll be lots of time for that as well. Great idea to inform your supervisors, your colleagues, and I would include your spouse about engaging in the mentorship, just so they know where you are when you steal away for hour-long conversations on the phone or Facebook conversations. That might be really helpful. And then if you could make sure you connect with your partner for that initial conversation before November 9th. So to share with you a wonderful quote by Margaret Wheatley: "Human conversation is the most ancient and easiest way to cultivate the conditions for change. Personal change, community and organizational change, and planetary change. If we can sit together and talk about what's important to us, we come alive. We share what we see, what we listen to, what others see and feel as well." So that's our hope for this pilot project, that in engaging in deep conversation about what truly matters, that we come fully alive in our work as educators and leaders in the great work that we do in British Columbia. So I think that's brought us to the end, and to say thank you for listening in for these minutes together, and we're happy to answer your questions now. So we'll have a look at what the questions are, and then we'll respond to them as we can.
I think we did such a great job of summarizing the entire program. I don't see any questions out there except for an initial question that Richard asked about whether you're able to see our screen or not. So, however, I think what you have Alison's email address on one of these slides. So if you have any questions, you can certainly contact Alison or myself. I do have one question from Peter. Have the mentors and mentees been paired? Yeah, we have gone through that process. So hopefully you saw an email from me. So in that chart, there's a list of mentors and mentees. The person who's directly across from you is your mentor or your mentee. Email addresses are on that chart as well. If you have not, if you've not been able to take a look at that email, I encourage you to do so and connect and perhaps share phone numbers with your mentor, between mentors and mentees, so you can establish that first connection prior to November 9th and 10th. If you didn't receive that email, please let me know and I will forward it again. We have one question about someone who may not be able to be here on the 9th and 10th. I know I've had one person say they can make one day but not the other. Certainly we will do our best to work around that, and Alison or myself will be able to connect with you to sort of bring you up to speed in terms of what next steps are happening. We do understand that this is a huge commitment for people, and certainly appreciate your availability. Really the most important piece is about regular connection between mentors and mentees, and we can certainly bring you up to speed on any things that you might have missed. I do think the book is going to be a great resource in terms of helping you mentors have the tools in the toolkit that you need to certainly engage in.
And just to add to that too, please email me at any time, and I will, the resources and the tools that I will be working with will be fully available to everyone, so you can connect to those on the BetterEducate site, and then please email me at any time. And there's also a way we can chat on BetterEducate as well. So if it's something that is less personal, the chat will be just fine as a way for us to communicate as well.
Yep. For mentees, once the training is finished, I will be sending a letter out to your superintendents, just letting them know that you're involved in this program, just so be respectful of your supervisors to make sure they're informed that you're part of it, and they may want to ask you some questions about how it's going as well. Good, so I do have one, I think it's one last question from Alan about when the email was sent out. Email went out yesterday, however, it seems to me like some of you may not have received it, so I will go back this afternoon and resend that email to our group, but again, ask you to double check your email. If you did not receive it either yesterday or later on this afternoon, then contact me. We'll find some other way to get the information to you.
I'll just interrupt for a second. There is a question about if they should order the book, or I guess if the book is being supplied.
Oh, thank you. That's a great question, Ian. So, no, we ordered copies of the book. We're keeping our fingers crossed that they're here for Thursday and Friday. Sorry, mentees, this book is for mentors only within our budget, but I'm quite confident we'll have copies of all the books here for the 9th. All right, seeing no other questions out there, again, there might be something you've heard that you might have a question later on this evening, or as the week progresses. Again, please don't hesitate to reach out to Alison and I if you need some clarification on things. Once again, particularly for our mentors, we do have about 6 mentees that we've not been able to match up as yet, because we are looking for some more mentors. If you know of any retired colleagues out there who you think would be able to commit to this and would do a great job, please pass along my contact information or contact them directly and encourage them to be a part of this. Application forms are on our website through Mentoring. They're also on the BC Retired Principals and Vice Principals Association website as well. And of course, if they have any questions about that, they can call me here at the office.
Thanks to you all. Thanks for participating, and I'm really looking forward to getting to know all of you much better. And I'm looking forward to working with you throughout this year. And all the best.